So anti-dumping, anti-subsidies investigation, so-called the decouple of the risk. Can you imagine? If without BRI and the new market, how can you make China's economy be double? How can you make sure Chinese middle class will be double by 2035 on the basis of the current 400 million? And also per capita GDP of China can be double. Because the BRI, the principles is inclusiveness, synergies of the strategies. So we are ready. We welcome all of these projects. We are ready to cooperate with them, even compete with them. Why Italy does not want to sign or continue contract? Actually, they think the benefit not enough from BRI. Why the benefit not enough? Of course, the first reason is the COVID. China suffered a lot. Italy also suffered at the beginning, very serious.
Welcome to the Ginger River Radio podcast, a part of the GRR media outlet, and your go-to podcast for anything about the Chinese current events. I'm your host, Jiang, the founder of Ginger River Review, a newsletter that focuses on reporting the priorities of both the leadership and the general public in China, and views you do not normally see from mainstream English language media. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, go to www.gingerriver.com and sign up to join our community of avid China watchers. Now, let's dive into our podcast show today. Hello folks, Ginger River Radio is back, and I missed connecting with you over the past couple of months due to some personal matters. As some of you might be aware, I took up a position at my agency's Islamabad office in Pakistan starting April of last year. Now my tenure there is complete and I'm back in China. It's been quite a year and I'm looking forward to sharing my experience there with you in the near future. Today's podcast will be somewhat related to my time in Pakistan as I will be discussing the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, with a prominent Chinese expert in this field. Given that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a flagship project of the BRI, I will be drawing upon my personal insight throughout the show. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the BRI, and Beijing will be hosting the third Belt and Road Forum on October the 17th and 18th. So there's a lot to talk about. Join me to discuss the current challenges and opportunities faced by the BRI is Wang Yiwei, who is Ron Monnet Chair Professor, Director of the Institute of International Affairs, and the Director of the Center for EU Studies at Renmin University of China. He is a leading researcher on the Belt and Road Initiative and the editor of the 10-volume China-NATO Studies series. Professor Wang did this podcast show with me online while he was traveling from Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan, two member countries of the BRI. Hi, Professor Wang. Welcome to Ginger River Radio.
Thank you for the invitation.
I'm really having you here today, and I know that you were actually traveling overseas. Could you first share with our listeners a little bit more about your personal history with Belt and Road Initiative and the kind of work you are doing now with BRI right now?
Well, I'm currently visiting Kazakhstan. This is the birthplace of the circular economic belt. Now flying to Uzbekistan, also another very ancient circular country, and then to Indonesia, which also the 21st century maritime circular was put forward 10 years ago. So this is a trip organized in celebration of the 10 years anniversary of the BRI, and also prepare for the third forum for international cooperation next week in Beijing. So for BRI, actually, I grown up with BRI because when I moved from Shanghai to Beijing 2012, and after the 3 years work in Brussels as a diplomat Chinese mission to the European Union. Actually, before I was professor of the Center for American Studies at Fudan University. So after Brussels, my diplomat career, I shift to the European Studies. So now finally got the Yamada Chair Professor. And then when I moved to Beijing, and then the new era began, and President Xi put forward the Belt and Road Initiative. There's a saying when I was interviewed, Wenhui Daily and the Guangming Daily says, it seems like I'm ready for the BRI. because my former background is in environment engineering. I worked in Tianjin for 2 years. My major was natural sciences engineering, and I worked in the factory, and then worked as a diploma, and then American studies, and European studies, and the international relations theory, and the diplomatic service. So all this actually serves for the BRI, because the BRI is not one single subject or discipline. It's not the trade, it's not just the geopolitics, it's not about culture, it's everything. It's very inclusive. So my background is very good for this, actually. So I know this is a new era, not just for China, for the world. So I have a long, I was the postdoctor of the history studies at the Fudan University. So I know the history of the Eurasia, the world history. I know the China's, we say, regeneration of the Chinese nation. Actually, this traces back to the Silk Road. And even for the globalization history, also traces back to the Silk Road. 500 years ago, when the Asian Silk Road maritime was suspended by the Ottoman Turkey, occupied Istanbul, and then expanded to Europe, and then the Europeans had to, maybe seek help from their religions to balance of the Muslim, and also the spice and many silk and many resources from Asia. So they went to from the sea, and then the destiny of the world changed. So it's a maritime globalization, but make the world actually the development gap is very huge. Coastal areas very advanced, but the coastal landlocked areas relatively poor, including in China. So that's the reason 10 years ago, President Xi put forward the Silk Road economic belt in Kazakhstan, which is the largest landlocked country in the world. So, and then China-Pakistan economic corridor as a pioneer project, because it connected the belt and the road, land and the sea. So that's the basically philosophy of the initiative.
Yeah, Professor Wang, it's great to know that you have like a diversified background. I certainly agree with that, because I have been in Pakistan for over 1 year, and I have covered the Belt and Road Initiative and the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. There is a flagship project of the Belt and Road Initiative. And you also mentioned about the gap you saw overseas, and the reasons that China put forward such an initiative. We know that this is the 10th anniversary of the BRI. And could you summarize that? How do you see the different developmental stages of BRI over the 10 decade, and what are the distinctive characteristics and accomplishments of each phase? Where are we now in this progression?
Well, I think maybe 3 stages for the BRI in the past 10 years. The first stage, of course, is about hard infrastructure building. Those countries want to learn, share China's opening and reform experience. That is, want to get rich, build the roads. But under the new liberalism, globalization, you don't have money, you don't have technology and expertise and engineering to build the roads. How can you get rich by building the roads? How can you get common rich by building the roads? So China, which actually 12 years ago, China overtake United States as the #1 industrial power. China has the most complete and categories of all the industries according to the UN system. So far, China's industrial power, the value, now is the G7 countries combined together. So that's the reason China can provide, we say, public goods for infrastructure building, and after, on the base of the infrastructure, cluster of the industries and economic zone, and then economic corridors, and then the economic prosperity, common prosperity, and the mutual connectivities within country and among and between the different regions. So that's the first stage. During that time, China's comparative advantage, which we had 4.2 trillion US dollars foreign reserve. So now the so-called the overcapacity problem for China after the global financial crisis. So before 40 years, China's opening reform, which most put US and Europe as the major partner. So 1/4 of the made in China went to the US market, 1/4 went to the European market. But after the global financial crisis and debt crisis of Europe, and then they cannot buy so much made in China. So-called the overcapacity problems come. So that's the first stage. It's about hard infrastructure building, port, airport, railway, and metro connectivities. The second stage is more about, high quality, is more soft infrastructure building. That means you need to have the standard rules, systems, regimes, mutual connectivity. So that's soft infrastructure building be highlighted. And then not just the two-part projects, now so-called small and beautiful projects like Juncao, the heritage is like the mushroom. Now it's 100 countries in like Fiji, and also Rwanda, many other countries. So it's easy to benefit the local people, easy to learning by doing, and also environment protection and tax income and income, all this. So that's the second stage. And now the third stage, I think that after the third forum, maybe it's more focused on, we say, 新联通, 硬联通, 软联通, now it's the 新联通. So-called the 新联通, more from the new areas like digitalization to green Silk Road, and then we say the culture. This culture actually is now in China, everything we talk about AI, talk about virtual reality, make it all of this. So make people to understand each other and the digital currencies and innovation, cultural innovation. So all kinds of this contribute the Belt and Road Initiative, mutual connectivity through the hard and soft and even hard mutual connectivity. So that's basically 3 stages.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about this. When you're talking about the third stage, you mentioned about that the BRI is not just about economy; it's also about the culture. And some overseas China watchers, they kind of think that the BRI is kind of, they call it the new colonialism. Do you think it's a fair judgment to the cultural influence part of BRI?
Okay, if BRI is a new colonialism, why 152 countries they volunteer to sign MOU with China to jointly build the BRI? Right?
Yeah.
Particularly for all the African countries that signed. African countries that suffered the colonialism, old one, new one, so much. But now the thing about the BRI is the hope to get the lift of poverty. Why? At least 5 times the United Nations resolutions signed also endorse the BRI. Particularly, the UNDP put BRI at the synergies with the SDG goals, lift poverty, empower the people, environment protection, everything. So even about so-called the debt trap, there's debt, but there's no trap. No one enforced to join BRI. They can volunteer to leave, volunteer to join, like Italy. So it's fine. It's not just it's not a new colonialism, but it's to deal with the colonialism legacy. That's, for instance, in Africa, 24 Franco countries colonized by the France before. 2 neighbors, they don't have the direct flight. If you want to reach your neighbor capital, you need a flight to Paris to change the flight. So that's a very called periphery system. It's an unfair system. Even they're dependent, but economically they're not independent. So now they share China's modernization experience and so to decolonize in Africa. So that's the reason the slogan of the synergies of the strategies with African Union to 2063, the founder 100 years anniversary of the African Union. The slogan is made in Africa with China for the world. So hope of Africa to be the small world factory or regional world factory like the Ethiopia, their Eastern Industrial Park. So it's a decolonization experience process of the BRI actually.
Yeah, and you mentioned about like there are over like 100 countries, they signed agreements with China on cooperations on the BRI, and including some European countries. Italy, the only G7 country to have joined the initiative, is likely not to renew its commitment this year. They believe that maybe their participation hasn't yielded the expected developmental and economic benefits. Why do you think they think in this way, and how do you view their stance? what challenges and impacts might Italy's withdrawal present for the initiative's implementation?
Well, as I mentioned, the BRI initiative is openness and inclusiveness. You are volunteer to join, you are volunteer to leave. No one enforces you to do that. Okay, why Italy does not want to sign or continue the BRI, with a contract? Actually, the things that benefit not enough from BRI, they still benefit. Okay, why the benefit is not enough? Of course, the first reason is the COVID, the 3 years. China suffered a lot. Italy also suffered at the beginning, very serious. So many projects cannot reach the goal originally designed. That's very important actually. But Italy, because it's a G7 country, the next year there will be the presidency of the G7. So the US and the European, particularly the US, now asked Italy to withdraw. Otherwise, you should take side between so-called BRI or the G7. So make this as a zero-sum game. Actually, Italy, now current government is very pro the Americans. And then after the Ukraine crisis, after Brexit, Italy now influence actually increased in the European Union. Actually, Italy benefited from the BRI, not just from the trade investment from China, but also as a BRI countries, Italy actually be the host country in the China import export in Shanghai, and also service exports in Hainan, and many, and also Italy companies joined the C919, the aircraft projects, and also LNG, the many projects. And also Italy can join set the rules and the standards with other partners. So Italy benefit a lot. But current Italy government says only about trade, about investment, some particular areas say, oh, not benefited enough. So this is unfair.
I see. Since your answer just touched that, I'm going to ask this question. So actually at the recent G20 summit, the Biden administration proposed a new idea forming a trade corridor between India, Europe, and the Middle East in collaboration with 32 countries, including EU members. And some analysis see this as a challenge to the BRI. Additionally, the EU has also proposed a 300 billion euro global gateway plan to enhance infrastructure in emerging industrial and developing nations, which some also believe that aims to counterbalance the influence of BRI. Do you think these plans are comparable to the BRI, and will they compete or even, have some clash significantly with each other, or can they complement each other or cooperate with one of each other?
Okay, China welcomed all of these projects, initiatives. We asked all the countries, particularly the major country economies, focus on the real economy, not just make bubbles like the previous the U.S. print the U.S. firms. But it's not the first time. This is the third time the U.S. have the beginnings of the Building Back Better world, and then after 1 year of the PG second, now so-called Europe, Central Asia, or Middle East and India corridor. So too many so-called BRI projects. European Union also have a global gateway strategy. China says because the BRI, the principles is inclusiveness, synergies of the strategies. So we are ready. We welcome all of these projects. We are ready to cooperate with them, even compete with them. Chinese comparative advantage is we have the most competitive industries categories in the world. So everything made in China, built by China or with China, is most efficient. The costs lowest. So that's we are very self-confident about that. And in China, we can design for decades. Like in China, we have 5-year plan, 4 decades. So other countries, Biden, next year can be the president or not, we don't know. Italy, the government changed too frequently. European Union, tomorrow, next year also election. So those countries, they are waiting to see. The thing about everything China made a promise, everything China designed and then jointly. Firstly, can have long-term, stable. Secondly, inclusiveness. Thirdly, they adapt the local condition and not interfere domestic affairs, not put a so-called too high standard like the private capital-driven or green everything, but not match the local conditions. So we are self-confident. We are ready to cooperate with every project's initiative.
And Ms. Wang, since you are traveling along the countries that have participated in the BRI, could you share with us some of the things that you have seen that impress you, or some of the things that you expect to see in your next trips?
The most impressive to me is when I visit so many countries, they cannot have the clean water to drink. They don't have.
Also see that in Pakistan, some places.
Yeah, even live in the darkness. Even they have the electricity, but it's too expensive. They cannot afford.
And may not be stable enough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So those countries independent for so many years, but don't have enough basic actually living standards. We say this is globalization, this is global village, this is modernization, everything. But those countries still live in the darkness. More than 1 billion people still without electricity. 2.7 billion people without access to the internet. So when we talk about everything digital, AI, everything, they still live in darkness without electricity, without internet. How can we say this is a community of shared future?
Mm-hmm. And you know that actually China is enhance and emphasize the importance of the BRI and its economic and international collaborations with the majority participated nations. And some concerns suggest that this might weaken China's engagement with the non-participant countries. So what kind of cooperative approach will China adopt with nations that are not involved in the initiative?
I just give one example. Brazil, so far not signed MOU with China or the BRI. Mm-hmm. So it's not considered by the BRI country. But Brazil, so many projects from China or with China. For instance, electricity and also hydrogen projects, and also with the new technology, new energy. So he didn't sign. We understand because it's a big power, and also they should pay attention to the relations with the United States. But we are patient. We are still doing. So it's not because you signed a BRI, and then the discrimination to other countries not signed. But when you sign the MOU, of course, it's a long-term guarantee for the investment and the stable relations, and also can jointly to set the rules and standards with other partners of BRI, and also towards the globalization, move more inclusiveness, more balance, more justice, more win-win, more sustainable. Yes, when you join earlier, you benefit earlier. Another example is Kenya. They are built the Mombasa to Nairobi railway. Now it's not just contribute 2% of the economic growth for Kenya, but also other 5 Eastern African countries that need to use this railway to access the ocean. And then Kenya to be the leading country in Eastern Africa, even in Africa. And then also stimulate of the Namibia and many other, that African countries say this is like the Yangtze River economic delta compared to China in Africa. So we also have the Pearl economic delta. So when I visit Namibia, there is the very important port. The slogan of Kenya say, "Hamdi Hamdi." That's it's Kenya's word. It's joint prosperity. So it's like the opening and the reform. When you start this first, and then you benefit. If you believe, you can achieve.
Yeah, and we know that some people now say that there is a trend of deglobalization. And I saw your interview published by a media yesterday. You mentioned about that actually the BRI represents a new form of globalization, or it changes the old form of globalization, which relies on the trade overseas from the seas to the land. Can you elaborate this idea to us?
Firstly, globalization is not the private gift or to any other country. Even the US launched so-called new liberalism globalization in the name of the Washington Consensus. And now the Americans declare this kind of globalization is over, is dead. A new kind of globalization now is coming to force. Now, I think that BRI is that kind of new, we say, inclusive globalization, which changed the paradigm of so-called capital-driven. But now it's more people-centric. It's more development-oriented. And now the third BRI forum may be more focused on the rules-based, the development, but on the base of the current, the 10 years of the development. So it's more inclusiveness, more focused on real economy. It's more people-centric. It's more focused on the sustainable development.
Yeah, and do you think over the 10 years, is there anything that remained to be achieved by the BRR? And what is your expectation, or what will be the future direction of BRR?
So far, 152 countries plus 32 international organizations signed an MOU with China, but this is bilateral. So we need maybe multilateralized of this regime. And so far, this is just an initiative without Secretary General, the headquarters, or any other like the BRICS or SCO or something. Maybe in the future, BRI, because the goal is to build the community of shared future, will be more institutionalized. And then I think more influence in the future.
And will the scope of the BRR continue to expand?
Of course, so far, I think majority of all the members of the UN, third of the fourth, right, to join BRI. Some countries, they want to join, but because they are afraid US or India, regional or global hegemony, they're not allowed to join, but actually they want to join. And some countries, they have their saying or their own ambitions, like as I mentioned about Brazil. But maybe next year, President Xi will visit Brazil and then to celebrate the 50 years anniversary diplomatic ties. And also, it's a BRICS summit. I think Brazil also will join next year.
Yeah, and you in your previous interview, you mentioned that Chinese unique strengths in BRR, particularly its institutional and industrial systems. I think today we talk a lot about the benefits that BRR brought to the other countries. But for China, because you mentioned that for the next stage, for the third stage, it might be more related to industrial, especially the digital part. And we know that China is also upgrading its own industrial sector. So how do you think that China can benefit from BRR, and how will China be able to leverage its advantages on the international stage?
The Chinese people and the Chinese economy, Chinese diplomacy benefit a lot from the BRI. First, the Chinese people. Now I'm in Astana. I visited Astana 7 years ago. To apply visa is very difficult, take a long time. But this time, free, no need for visa. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's impressive.
So it's very convenient for the Chinese people to visit BRI countries. And even in Beijing capital airport, there's a channel, particularly for BRI. It's like before, it's like APEC, right? So it's more convenient for the people, for tourists, for people exchange. And also food. Now in the Chinese supermarket, you can buy so many, lots of the products, agricultural products, particularly wines from Chile, from Argentina, from Uruguay, so far away. Okay, so Chinese people benefit from BRI, but they don't know this is BRI products or results because they didn't mention about the BRI in the supermarket. It's only mentioned this is made in Chile, this is made in maybe in Poland or something. So, but this is BRI countries that we understand. Okay. Secondly, Chinese economy benefit a lot. Opening reform in the past 4 decades is open basically to the Western countries. But now the relations between China and the Western countries economically compete each other. So anti-dumping, anti-subsidies investigation, so-called the decouple or de-risk. Can you imagine? If without BRI and the new market, how can you make China's economy be double? How can you make sure Chinese middle class will be double by 2035 on the basis of the current 400 million? And also per capita GDP of China can be double. So not just a GDP, but a GNP, actually, as means overseas Chinese profits, national incomes comes from BRI countries. So those countries, the relation with China is like the early stage of the Chinese relations with the Western countries. So China comparative advantage is very comprehensive. Okay, thirdly, for China's diplomacy, our relations with the BRI countries improved. For instance, the recent one is Timor, if the new member of not joined the ASEAN already, it's a very young country, but even relations with China update to strategic partnership. Even Palestine also signed an MOU, BRI with China. Now they suffered the conflict in Israel. Israel also definitely benefit the Haifa port and subway and many projects. So our relations with the with those countries updated. So China's opening reform now is overall opening reform, not just a cost and error. In the Chinese, we say this is a 陆海内外联动，东西双向互济. So coastal error and landlocked errors, and then east and west, both with the new frontiers of opening reform. So Chinese domestic market is more integrated, like the China Europe Rail Express. Take for example, Chengdu now have the 2 international airports. The 1/4 of the China Europe Rail Express start from Chengdu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wang. We know that you are very busy and you are also traveling, and I hope you have a smooth trip. And thank you very much for having a podcast show with me. Thank you.
Thank you, and my pleasure.
Thank you, Professor Wang. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Ginger River Radio podcast is a part of the GR Media outlet. For cooperation, investing, or feedback, email me directly at jjiang.sisu@hotmail.com, or just give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We will be delighted if you would recommend our podcast or newsletter to others if you find it helpful. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Take care.